Good afternoon, everybody. This is Robin Ayub from the Localization Fireside Chat, and welcome to another episode of the Localization Fireside Chat. Today, we are recording episode number 99, and I have the honor and the distinct pleasure to have with me Monsieur Jean-François Richard. And Jean-François, he is the CEO of Terminotics, and in English, for those of you who are familiar with the word, but with the name Terminotics, Terminotics, I guess, in English they call it. But Jean-François is located in Quebec, in Montreal region, I believe, Jean-François?
Yes, I am. Our office used to be in Ottawa, but I moved them when I acquired the company back in 2010.
So first thing first, welcome to the conversation. Welcome to the Localization Fireside Chat. Glad to have you with me. I can't wait to have a conversation with you. And as you probably know, our conversations are easy, not a really complicated conversation. It's imagine two individuals having coffee at Starbucks and talking about the business. And we record it and then let the audience enjoy it as well. So welcome again.
Thank you for having me, and I really appreciate your invitation. Thank you so much.
Hey, no problem. And I always I have an affinity and I have a soft spot in my heart for Canadian companies, right? And I am in Canada. Yeah, I grew up in Canada. I lived in this industry for 22 years. So anytime there is a company in Canada who's interested in coming on the show and tell their story, I'll stop everything. I normally record these things on Friday, but here I am on Monday afternoon recording the podcast with you. So it is an honor and pleasure to have you with me. So let's get started first by getting to know you and getting to know how did you get into the business. And as I say on this channel, there's, people tell me, good stories how they get into the business. Some people get into it by accident. Some people tell me accidentally on purpose. I leave it up to you. Tell me your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my parents started a mom and pop shop back in the mid 1970s, small language service provider from home. So I was 10 years old, and I was, as far as I can remember, I mean, translation has been uh, a big part of my life. I mean, I've dedicated my life in helping translators. I started to work for my parents. I was 15, and they sent me to the grocery store or the drugstore or anywhere where we could find translations on boxes. So I would go there, take notes, and buy any, just go back home and say, well, this is how it's translated on this box. And their business went very well. They started to hire people that came to work at home. So back in until they bought computers, they were using IBM Selectric with this humming sound always present in the house. Yeah, my parents were also very keen in investing in new things, new technology. I mean, they purchased a computer back in 1980, which cost like $10,000. Even for today, it's quite expensive. But they always wanted to find technological solutions to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And terminology was written on Rolodex, and the terminology is the nerf de la guerre, right? And that and the delay, the time it takes to deliver. And even my grandfather was working for them. He was counting words. He was counting words with I don't know if you know. There's a
By
clicking
hand, right?
machine. Yeah, it was clicking machine. He had his finger on the printed copies or the output of the typewriters and counting the number of words. It would take so much time to count words. Just that task was tedious, right? So
Incredible, eh? How far
yeah.
along we came.
And then I, I, I mean, I had my very first computer. I was more interested into programming and electronics. So I did a course in electronics at Control Data, which was a company that used to do the cyber, whatever. They had a mainframe at the time. So I studied to become an electronic technician. And then I went to the university in what they call automated productivity, which is like industrial engineering. But, working and developing or installing networks for my parents' business was much more fun than working with, controlled machines and industrial process. That's how my very first job was a computer aided design technician. But during the weekends and during the nights, I installed NetWare. I don't know if you remember.
Netware. I remember Netware.
They were, I mean, back in mid 1980s, there were
Hmm.
two standards. IBM, I went three standards: IBM, WordPerfect, and then came NetWare from Novell,
Yep.
and that's we started to install that, and installing like the first Termium CD-ROM. So you had to purchase a CD-ROM reader, which cost like $3,000 at the time, and we would pay like $1,200 per year to receive every month a CD update of Termium. And prior to that, we would be able to connect to a BBS for the Banque de Terminologie du Québec, which became Grand Dictionnaire Terminologique. So that's our good. And you were
Wow. What a start, Jean-François. What a start. What was, just curious, when your parents said, "Hey, come and work with us in the business." What job
well
did they give? What job did they give? What task was assigned to you?
well initially my task was, as I said, go to the library or go to the grocery store, go to the pharmacy, the drugstore, find translations on how did someone else did. I mean, it was like the bytext of the time, right? You had to walk through get walk through where the place you could get the information. But then after that, once I had my computer electronic degree as a technician, I started to make work. It was kind of very complicated when you had an IBM PC. Afterwards, you had to find interrupt requests with different cards, SCSI cards and scanner cards. I had to. This is what it was not an official job. I was doing that, helping them. I was kind of loving that, and I saw how they work. That's when in early 90s I started to develop synchrotron, because that's what they wanted. They wanted to be able to view documents side by side, English on the left and the French on the right, and be able just to select the terms, the term candidates. That's how translators call them, and then create a terminology record. Because there was a very useful tool back in, I think, 1994 or 1995 called Termex. It was a terminate but stay resident that you could call from any DOS application. So, and you could store terminology records in there and just select something in WordPerfect and ask this application. And we lost a lot of those. I mean, the translators love this little TSR application. And I started to see that terminology was a big issue. And I
Yep.
started to invest time in research.
What a journey from where you started to where we are right now. And, you're. I was just reading a little bit about what you've done, and in 1994, which term came about. I think that was your first product in the series, right?
Well, Bridgeterm, I was working for a telephony company, which could fax over IP, voice over IP at the time. And Bridgeterm was a company for voice over IP and solution. I just recycled the name because I own the name, and I found it very interesting to recycle that name, because when you register a name, or what's it, you anyway, yeah, you own the name. I just initially it was at all for translation purposes. It was recycled for. Now it's called Bridgeterm, is a workflow or project management solution.
Okay, so it's part of the Terminotics process of suite of products. I'm assuming, right?
That's right. Well, our strategy is to be as modular as possible, because language services. Most of my competitors, they're asking language services to, you know,
Buy the entire suite, all in, all out.
just remove everything, replace everything by what we have, and that's not my approach. Because, as I said, I know how. I mean, I've seen my parents and a lot of translators and language services. They receive a text on Friday afternoon, and it's not for Monday. It's for the day before yesterday, and they don't have the time to change everything. It's causing them a lot of pain when you ask them to do that. So that's why a lot of, like, Align Factory, which is the alignment technology. Well, you can buy that even though you don't have Logiterm. It's compatible. You can integrate it with any CAT tool you have. And a lot of my competitors are buying Align Factory. That's what they suggest to their clients when aligning documents
That's
comes
right.
as a need.
So, for the audience who's listening to this conversation right now, I just want to make sure that you guys got this correctly. Terminotics is a language technology company. So they provide technology solutions for the language industry and for anybody who is involved in the language industry. Either you're in language service provider or you're an internal translation department for a company. And what I like about what Jean-Francois is saying is the modularization of the approach, meaning, and you hit the nail on the head, Jean-Francois. So you don't have to buy an entire suite if you don't want to. You can if you want to, but if you don't want to and you want to buy a specific subset to serve or to fix a certain issue, you can definitely do that as well. And just for the audience, I'm going to give you some highlight of the categories of product. And Jean-Francois can do a better job than me, but I just found this on your website. So you've got translation tools, you've got document alignment solutions, you've got project management solutions, you've got a machine translation solution, terminology extraction solution, bilingual concordance solutions as well, and you've got API integration, which is really interesting. And they are also you providing also training services and support and support.
Well, yes, without, maybe I'm gloating, but Terminautics has probably the best technical support when it comes to language technologies. As I said, I come from the translator's point of view. So let's say you try to, on a Friday afternoon, you need to, reinsert a translation into the final format. It doesn't work. Well, I mean, our SLA is very, very, very short. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
delay time before you get an answer is probably the quickest one in the
True.
market.
Jean-Francois, like for you from where you sit, and you look back and we look where you are right now in Termotics, how did that come about? Like, first, do you control the development life cycle? I'm a computer science background. Do you control the development life cycle? Is it in-house? Do you outsource this? Like all these changes that we've seen since you mentioned since the 70s, 80s till now, you must have gone through, a lot of journey here to get to where you are. So you must have either, yeah, I'm guessing, got a lot of creativity, a lot of vision, and you've got people to support you to get you there.
Well, first of all, everything's in house. My employees are mostly working from home since the pandemic, but they're on the payroll of Terminautics, except for a few consultants. But my consultants are mostly based in the area, right? And yeah, well, with regards to the vision and strategy, I'm totally um, influenced by my clients. I'm just, so, like for instance, I know we're going to talk about that later on during this podcast about AI. But everything I did in AI is to my clients said to me, "Is it possible to do this and that?" I said, "Why would you want to do that?" Because I don't want to have to train my neural machine. And it's okay. I'm going to see what I can do. It's very easy for me. From where I stand is I have like more than 300 language services inside organization in the world. So what I do is I do a very client satisfaction survey with them every year. I meet them and I say, what I want to know is not what's working well. What could what are your what are the flaws in the product? In French, would say doléance. I don't know what's the translation for that, but
Mm-hmm.
and that's my strategy of development. And yeah, basically.
So basically, from what I'm hearing you're saying, if I can summarize, is that you listen to your customer and you customize based on their input the new releases or the updates of your solutions. Am I correct?
You're correct. We have a roadmap, and the roadmap is dictated by the most wanted things that my clients want, right? Basically, and sometimes they just ask me, I would like this a product doing this and that, and I will try hard to see what can I do to do that because I can see that there's an opportunity where it's a very simple way to develop is just because I'm not a translator myself. I know a lot about what they want. I know what they need. I know how they work. I know what they like. I know what they hate. Like post editing is something they hate so much. So I'm working hard to get rid of that, And it's something that, I mean, it sounds like it's very recent, but post editing started back early in 1990s. where translation memory started to gain in popularity in the world, it was post editing of fuzzy matches. And something that I've never developed is something that my translators don't ask me to do. Like translation memory and machine translation were not invented by translators, they were invented by programmers. Like, I mean, machine translation was invented during the Cold War because they wanted to spy, but I mean, rule based machine translation and translation memories is something that a programmer imagined. I mean, and translators had to use it because, oh, here's the new thing. And a lot of managers and people in power decided that it was the thing. And now nobody's complaining about it. Well, they do still complain about a lot of flaws they have. But yeah, so
So, in terms of the main product that you have, how Logiterm, I'm assuming, right? So, Logiterm is your main product.
it's our flagship product.
It's your
Bridge
flagship.
term is gaining a lot of people are asking more and more. And
So, for those who don't know you, like I'm familiar with your company, but for those who don't know you, first time they hear this conversation, what should they keep in mind when they're looking at, language-based technology tools?
well, first of all, Logiterm is one of a kind. We used to have a competitor, but I mean, this competitor just died. It was acquired by a company that acquired them, and it just, I mean, Multitrans, not to name it. But now it's the only corpus-based software, as opposed to a translation memory. A translation memory, you need the interface to translate into that to feed the translation memory, and sometimes it's very clunky. There's a lot of features that, I mean, and it's totally desynchronized with your documents, your archive documents. So Logiterm is like a powerful search engine. It's like your own Google or your own Bing for your own documents, but in a bilingual manner. So we also have a feature called full text, which is not, I mean, nobody, you have to buy another product to have that feature, which is kind of important to be able to search in your Word PDF documents.
Hmm.
And same thing with the bytext. The bytext is a very different technique. Although it seems very similar to a translation memory, has some. If you look under the hood, it's got some very different philosophy or paradigm. So it keeps the context at the document level. The metadata of the documents are kept, and when you translate a document, it will not do the mistake of giving you a suggestion that is not in the same context because the byte text keeps the context. So the way it's built, and it's a lot easier to maintain than a translation memory. If you have group share or Mimikyu server, it's a lot of work to upgrade those systems. It's very heavy, and they're not downsizing in terms of size, right?
And
And
you're able to segregate those corpuses by customer projects.
well, that's the beauty of the thing is that let's say you already have a structured archive of documents on SharePoint or on a file server. It's up to you to organize the way you structure your folders, and you can create a module called marketing or a module called a product name. Depends on how. I mean, like language service providers, they divide them by clients, like law firms as well. But if you're a pharmaceutical company, you organize them by product probably, or also by department. So it's just it's very simple. You create a module, is a name, you give it, and where are those documents related to that topic
Okay.
exactly?
And for those individuals that are out there that probably don't know the difference between corpus and the memory, translation memories, could sensitize it down to or condense it down to a simplistic way of explaining
I'll do my best.
it?
Well, a translation memory is quite it's quite old. Started to in early 1990s with Trados was already existing. Was available on WordPerfect, by the way, not a
Hmm.
very, for a very long time.
Hmm.
Then came IBM. What's it called? Translation Manager, Transit, so on and so forth. So the way it works is when you need to work in the interface. You cannot well initially you were allowed to work directly in Word or WordPerfect, but now you need to translate in a separate interface. The
Okay.
way it works is you submit a document, and then for each sentence in the document, we'll see in a translation memory, does that sentence exist? And it uses this fuzzy match or fuzzy logic technology, which I think was invented back in the 60s, which is allows you to, as opposed to the Boolean logic where it's equal or not equal,
That's
you could
right.
have something in it. if you have a sentence to translate that contains 20 words, and you translated in the past in your translation memory database a
Yep.
very similar sentence with one word that is different, well, it's going to be a match of 90% or something like that. But if you have a two-word sentence and one word changes, probably goes down to 50% because the number of words is taken into account in the way you calculate that. It's very simplistic explanation, but that's how it works.
That's how it works.
Yeah. So if you want to, and as opposed to a corpus, the corpus based, I mean, what I describe for translation memory is if you, let's say at the last minute, you review the document, the Word document, and before sending it back to the requester, the person asking for a translation job, you see a correction that has to be done. You correct it in the Word directly. But the translation memory, I mean, you have to go back into the interface. You have to find exactly which translation unit. It's very cumbersome, and not a lot of language servers do that. Translation memories tend to be polluted over time. That's one of the problems.
That's right.
So my system is, well, if the document changes, the whole chain, I mean, if we start from the document's point of view, I mean, we have processes that indexes document and realign the documents they exchange. So everything's
Yeah, I know. One of
automated.
your products is document alignment, right?
Yeah, it's Align Factory, although in Logiterm you can also align documents on the fly. But if you want to automate the process, or if you have big alignment projects, we have specific modules doing that, namely Align Factory, Desktop, and Robot.
Okay. Now, so one of the items that I hear quite a bit from the translators out there is translation is not straight job. Like you don't just translate. Some translators wish it was, but there's another element of the translator function is research because not all topics are going to be top of mind and they know about it. Some topics are new, they need to find out more about it. So I know you've addressed that. How did you make that job a little easier for the translator?
Well, first of all, translators, revisers are spending on an average 30 to 40% of their time in that very specific task, which is searching. So that's why Logiterm is so useful because it allows you to search in your existing documents, your bytext, and we provide searching operators just like you would do in Google or Bing. It's the very same principle and something that translation memories don't do well. I mean, and also you can only search in your translation memory. If it's not in your translation memory, what are you going to do? You're gonna need another search engine. Like I would say that my DT search, I don't know, maybe some of you auditors know, people listening know what I'm talking about, is more in competition to Logiterm than a translation memory. Because I do
Okay.
have a lot of clients using a translation memory in conjunction with Logiterm for searching, and we have a special plugin that allows you to launch queries from any application, maybe Trados, MemoQ, whatever the application, and it's very appreciated. And because, as I said, just at the end of the day, if you Control C, Control V, and Alt Tab all the time, I mean that's what I'm hunting
Yeah.
is how can I shortcut the time they take to search because
Yep.
this is
Yep.
the biggest task they do all sorts of reasons for searching for definitions, for the right tone. And that's the thing that translation memories are not very good at.
Yep. Now, before I dig into other topics, just give me a high level idea. Like, things like is Terminotix solution deployed on the cloud? Is it on the server behind the firewall for your customers? And if it's in the cloud, can it be regionalized? Meaning that it can be in Canada, it can be outside of Canada. Just give us an idea on the deployment part, if you will.
Well, we cover all those scenarios that you want, that my clients want. I have a lot of clients because I do business with a lot of governmental agencies, international, provincial, and most of them are on premise. And I see that it's gaining in popularity. Some of my clients, I can host them. We have a data center in the suburb of Montreal, which is a tier 3 SOC 2 compliant data center. This is
That's very
where we,
important. Everybody's looking for SOC 2 now. Eh?
yeah, well, Terminatics not SOC 2 because we're a very small company, right? So SOC 2 would mean to double the size of the company just to be SOC 2.
Okay.
But that doesn't stop my clients. We are ready to go through risk assessments, penetration tests, and most of the time, I mean, it's quite satisfying. And sometimes they find a wrong version of a component, we upgrade it, and most of the time, I mean, it. And for most of my clients that are requesting that, they do go on premise as well. But if you want to go on the cloud, so I do have clients, they have Azure accounts. It does work well in Azure as well.
So, but all they have to do is just install it in their instance of Azure, basically, right?
Exactly. We have a lot of clients. Azure, I think that Microsoft did a pretty good job with Azure and SharePoint.
Yep.
With the SharePoint integration that we released lately, has provided something that my clients were asking for, which is collaboration. So SharePoint does provide collaboration features to my product by accident. I
Yeah,
do
yeah.
have, so no, I think that a lot of AI that Azure is providing are so integrated into my technology called Tiger. But I'm going to talk about that later.
Yeah. So one of the trends, one of the things I want to ask you about is industry trends and challenges. And, AI can't be ignored. Before we get into the trends, I guess, let's talk a little bit about how does Terminotics is dealing with AI? What kind of services are you offering within the AI parameters to your customers? And what's the future look like, in your opinion?
Well, the future looks bright because we do have great integrations with AI. I think that Logiterm was AI ready. It's the perfect combination, especially if you use cached augmented generation. Well, when AI got released, I looked at the RAG, retrieval augmented generation, but I found I very slow, and it was consuming a lot of context length, which means that the prompt or the inference was very long. It was very expensive as well.
It
So I said, why?
utilizes more tokens, does it?
Yeah, you need like a very large context length. But then I looked more on the cached augmented generation, which allows you to, at inference time for a specific sentence to translate, just infer the result that are close. And it's amazing the results I get with that. This has allowed me to release a new product, which is called Tiger. Tiger, which stands for Translation AI Groundings Retrieval. So it's one step further than RAG. It's faster, the results are amazing, and it's less expensive.
Jean-Francois, is Tiger like a standalone or is it integrated into other products and services?
Well, Tiger is integrated into Logiterm, or
Okay.
when you pre-translate a document,
So
or
you
with the
continued on
plugin.
with the modularization, right?
Yeah, it's a module, exactly. And if you already have, let's say, Azure AI account, we can use that because we're not tied to any LLM. It works well with any LLM because the way it works is at inference time, as long as the LLM is large enough, like GPT, which you can buy from Azure AI. So a lot of my clients are starting to deploy this. And
Hmm.
I think this is the fourth wave in machine translation. The first being rule based, the second statistical, the third neural machine translation, and the fourth, which is the cached augmented generation, or Tiger, which is my brand name for that. And neural machine translation was great, but it's 10 years old, by the way. It was initiated by OpenNMT, which was started by Harvard University, and
I
Sistran
think neural machine
also
translation was
has.
step one into the AI world, right?
Well, it's like a very specialized AI. You don't have this thing that LLM provide, which is called prompting and inference, and it's a big problem because if you want to improve an NMT engine like the ones you can install on premise, well, you need to export your bilingual corpora. You need to have them cleaned. You need to train, but you cannot train it yourself. I mean, I don't know any system and that can take a month. The client is allowed to send out the TMX for training, or the corpus for training, which a lot of my clients, they say, well, I cannot buy that because I need something that will stay internally on premise. And that's what now with the inference, that all this process of exporting, cleanup, training is vanished, is
Yeah, you don't
completely.
have to do it. And you're
No.
not connected to the outside world. I'm assuming you're still within the
You
contained
can also
environment.
buy. Yeah, there's also a module that will be released soon. It's called Tiger Vault Server. You will be able to install an LLM on premise, and on the very same server where Logiterm Web resides. So, and it's very simple to maintain. A lot of my NMT engines are very, very complicated to maintain, just like translation memories of changing the version. Sometimes it works only on Linux, and so it's
Jean-François,
very
what's
close.
the pros and cons for LLM on premises versus not on prem?
Well, the one on prem is smaller. If you want to use it for other purposes than translation, it's not updated automatically, but it does provide a very good solution when it comes, because you don't, a lot of people are talking about fine tuning LLMs, but with the technology I'm talking about cached augmented, you don't need to do that, because the cached part is the Logiterm full text, byte text, and terminology that you can inject at inference time.
So you're already training it dynamically on what you already have.
Yeah, yeah. So, and the beauty of that is that you can, the process is totally automated. When you
Yep.
translate a document, whether you translate it in Logiterm or not, it's automatically aligned with the Align robot. It's indexed, and the next minute, I mean, something detects that something has changed, and so it's very close to be real time.
In the world that we live today, I hear cyber attacks, here cyber issues, cyber concern, and I love the idea that your modularization and the architecture that you presented, meaning that your customers have the option to put it behind their own firewall, get their own security blanket on top of it, etc. And you mentioned earlier that you have your data hosting in your own data centers.
Well, it's not our, it's e-structure that's in Boucherville. It's yeah, this is we have.
You lease it basically, right?
Cabinets over there. We install we manage the servers ourselves. Otherwise, clients are free to host them on premise or whatever, Amazon or
Hmm.
Microsoft or wherever they want.
And so there's no concerns around cybersecurity issues.
Well, like I said, the ones that are hosted on our data center nearby Montreal, we have procedures for maintaining those servers, and we're audited for by an external firm, and we get penetration test report. And we haven't till now. I mean, I have a lot of big pharmaceutical drugs company,
Yeah, yeah.
and they don't complain about that
Okay.
until up until now.
Hey, tell me, like, in your opinion, where does this take you? Like, what's your vision for the future? What's next for Thermonautics right now? If you were to look 1 or 2, 3 years down the road, I know everybody's thinking AI, and AI is going to play a big role. I was on a conversation earlier in the legal industry, and there's a huge conversation going on in every industry now about how AI is going to impact, transform, in some cases, modify the way we do things, not eliminate. I mean, people think, oh, it's going to eliminate. I don't think anything will be eliminated. I think we'll have to do things differently. So, what's your vision for Thermonautics as it evolves with the time?
Well, of course, AI will be implemented in more modules in the future. For instance, Bridge Term Web, which is our translation project workflow solution.
Yep.
So one of the problems that my clients are raising is the following: a lot of employees in any organization, they have a text to translate, and what they do, they go onto the DeepL portal or Google or whatever that's free, they copy and paste it, and then that's what they do. But this is causing headaches because they're not supposed to do that most of the time. Well, sometimes they're not allowed to do that even though they do it. But the goal here would be to provide that in Bridgeterm Web. Bridgeterm Web is the portal for clients submitting translations requests. So they have a portal, and what in the near future we will probably have this equivalent. So you have the choice. Do you want to submit a document to translate through the regular length, process of it translated by professional translators? But if you cannot wait, because the problem is always the delay, right? They're, they want their translation now. But what if, because Bridge Term knows who is this requester, who in which department this person works, and then usually language services organize their bytext modules in accordance to the department. So if we use the Tiger technology to provide a more accurate translation based on what the language services did, it would eliminate the use of external machine translation, which are, I mean, there's only one solution as opposed to AI, when you can ask for many different tone change, you can specify things like that. And it would use the terminology of the, I mean, cultural information that's indexed biology term without any intervention. Everything's automated. And that I think is where
That's the
one of
safety
the
net,
things,
basically.
I'm sorry?
It's a safety net.
It's a safety net, but also it's connected to, Tiger, which is cache augmented generation, which, as I said, it knows that, oh, this person comes from marketing. I'm going to use the bytext and infer for them, and will probably give a very accurate translation.
Because you're
Because,
taking now into consideration nuance and context and culture and sensitivity and all that stuff.
yeah, because since you can prompt it, something you cannot do with NMT, you can specify those. You can pre-configure, prompt. I think that I hired someone in natural language processing, which
Hmm.
is just writing prompts all day long and testing them. That's developed the best techniques.
So one of the questions that on my mind, I feel like, and every time I get a guest on this podcast, I ask, and I don't know what your reaction is going to be to this one, but what do you think the major challenges are right now?
Well, it's I think that AI is causing a lot of people, a lot of translators are very keen in using it, but there are a lot of people very scared of it. But that's not something new. I mean, when translation memories started to be available, I mean, there was a lot of complaint about it. I mean, they and 10 years after, nobody complains complaining about that. And there was things like if 100% match or an exact match, you would not be paid for that. That's something that language professionals fought against that, and they won. It's like right now the same thing happened with NMT, with what's it called, post editing machine translation, and they're fighting against that because, as I said in my portal I want to develop, one of the things that requesters don't do when they pre-translate or they translate with DeepL, for instance, is they don't send them. They just say, "Can you revise this?" But they don't send the original document. So something that is, and I can understand. I totally agree that this is completely annoying. It's cumbrous. It's like, Charlie Chaplin's movie Modern Time, when I don't know if you've seen that movie. He's all day long, all the thing he does is I think like screwing things, and at the end of the day he sees screws everywhere, or knots. He becomes knots. So, and that's what happens to translators when they're
Mhm.
asked to post edit a something that was spitted out by machine translation.
So one of the things that people are talking about behind closed door, and I don't know how far it is in public domain, is the economic part. And what I refer to the economic part is the revenue, prices. Is this a business is still viable business? Can still people make some money out of it? And we see also another factor into this, and I'm not sure if you're keeping an eye on this one, is a lot of acquisitions out there. Every time I open the news or I open my emails, I get a notification about somebody acquired somebody. What's your thoughts on the economic part?
I don't know from the translator's point of view. I think there's a lot of fear. Is it justified or is it unjustified? I don't know. But I'm going to answer with a story from one of my clients. He's got a big client. He's a freelancer, right? And this client says, "I want to meet you because I want to know what tools you're using. What are you using?" And all they wanted to know is, was this freelancer up to date in terms of technology? And they didn't question the price. They didn't question, again, the price is something that we pay too much attention to. I think the delay is the most important thing. And the price sometimes goes not far behind. But the delay, and what, I mean, they want to know if we give you business,
Can
you're
deliver on
able to
time or not?
provide, and what tools do you have? And then he did a demo because he's got everything. He's got, even, I think he's got MemoQ, he's got Trados, he's got Logiterm, he's got Synchrotherm, he's got everything except BridgeTerm because he's a freelancer. And then he's using Tiger. He's got a Mac internally because his client it does not allow to use external. So he bought a Mac and installed an LLM locally, and he showed that to them, and they were so impressed They just wanted to know, are you keen in using the latest tools? I mean, they just want to vet him to make sure that, and then they continue to do business. But if you're because there's a lot of the requesters, sometimes they don't understand. I mentioned that they just send a document to revise without sending the original document. Well, we should be against that. We should say, I mean, some of them are right, but
Hmm.
let me, I use these tools, but this client of my freelancer mentioned never told him how to work. They just wanted to know, are you, are you investing in technology?
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you. Like the turnaround time is important to most customers. Can you deliver on time? And also, I agree with you. Like at a freelance level, maybe pricing is not an issue, but I do see it on the company level, on the transition company level. More and more, we're seeing more of that now. And it goes without saying, like everything is being driven now by, you mentioned earlier somebody is not allowed to use DPEL or anything like that in some department somewhere. And even if IT blocks it, they're finding ways. They go on their mobile phone, they cut and paste, they put things in,
No, no,
they
it's
just
it's
go around the system and they just say, hey, I've translated, leave me alone.
it's a plague. A plague,
So as we come to an end here, I really want to give you a chance to, tell the audience what you would like them to do. How do they like to get in touch with you? What are you hoping to get out of this conversation beside getting everybody to know you and to know Terminotics?
Well, if you're in translation, if you have internal or language services, you're a freelancer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just love translators. I mean, I love them, and they can contact me very easily. I have a LinkedIn account. You can contact me by email, jfr@terminotics.com.
That's
You can
right.
ask me for any trial version. They're all available, and I'm usually contact my clients direct. I love to be very close. Proximity with my clients very important to me because this is how I improve my products. Like I said, the DeepL thing make me think, what can I do to provide that to them is something internal that has better quality, not equal, better quality
Mm-hmm.
than what they provide with the Tiger technology, which is right now it's generating so much interest for this new integration with AI. A lot of clients that are using on-prem and MT or hosted in MT are starting to migrate to this. So we're starting to enter into fourth wave. I think that NMT is going to, if they don't adapt, I would be very scared if I would be an NMT company right
Jean-Francois, I didn't ask you this question, but just out of curiosity, do you cover all languages or just English or French? How
now.
many
Yeah, we have
languages do
like
you cover?
50 languages,
Okay.
and adding a language depending on the module. In Logiterm, it's quite easy. In Synchrotherm, it's a bit more complicated because we need to,
Yep.
you know,
Modification?
modifications to stop words, stuff like that.
Yep.
Usually it takes a day or two to add a language. We just added languages from British Columbia government lately that they asked us for languages we didn't support, and we just
Yep.
added them.
Yep. Hey, I want to thank you for coming on the conversation today, Jean-Francois. You and I have met several times. It's the first time we actually sit down and have a conversation. We always said we are going to do this, and I guess you're attending. There are a couple of conferences coming up in Montreal in April. Are you going
Well,
to
two
those?
in a row actually. There's this World Speak
Yes.
and the gala. I think the gala
The
is the day
gala is
before
behind
World
it, right,
Speak
right in the
at the
same
very
time. I'm
same
assuming.
place, Sheraton Hotel in Montreal. So
Yep.
for sure I'm going to be there. It's in my hometown.
Yeah, I will put a plug. We'll put a plug in for those two. I'm on the board of the Canadian Language Industry Association, past president, and I'm on the advisory board. So I want everybody who's listening to this conversation to make a plan to be in Montreal in April. Look us up, the Canadian Language Industry Association, on Google. Find out about World Speak and register, and come to see us in Montreal. It's only 1 day event. Lots of fun, lots of people to get to know, and you'll see Jean-Francois there, and you'll see me
Yeah,
there.
for sure.
I don't know if I add anything to the conversation or to the deal. Hopefully, I don't break it.
No, we're good. We're good. And thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm always keen to talk about Terminology, that's for sure.
No, thank you so much, Jean-Francois. I really appreciated this honest and candid conversation that we just had today. Feel free to come back anytime you want. This channel is yours. Use it as you wish. Anytime you have a new update, a new product that you want to talk about, or new initiative on the go, we don't have to take an hour. We can do this in 30 minutes as well. So you're welcome to come back.
I will contact you for sure when this bridge term Tiger integration will be done, because I think it's going to make a lot of noise.
Absolutely, and look forward to hearing about that.
Thank
To our
you.
audience, I want to thank you so much for listening in. Thanks for following us for this conversation as well. And again, I want to mention to everybody that this channel is a personal initiative of my own. It's not supported by anybody. I do my own editing. I spend my weekends doing this. So and I'm not making money out of it. So all I'm asking you in return, whoever's listening to this conversation, is all I want you to do is just like the video, comment on it, or on the podcast, or on the blogs post that we produce from these sessions, and engage with us on social media. That's all I'm asking for in return. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Robin.
Thanks, everybody. I'll see you at the next
Montreal.
episode. And I'll see you in Montreal, Jean-Francois.
Will, for sure.